The following is a presentation of the Missouri Sports Network.
Hello again, sports fans, and welcome back to the Missouri Sports Network, MissouriSportsNetwork.com, where everyone has a home field advantage. And as always, coming to you from the Pizza Ranch studio. Pizza Ranch with 7 locations in Missouri, getting ready to have an 8th. Have the quarterback club every Monday, 11:30 to 1 o'clock at Pizza Ranch on the mall. And next week, have pizza. Scoreboard guy will travel. Be up in St. Joe, Missouri for the quarterback club on Thursday. Certainly would invite you to step in and join us 11:30 at St. Joe Pizza Ranch. Also presented by Central Bank of the Ozarks, Dope Propane, Chevy Dealers of the Ozarks, Great Southern Bank, Labor's Local 663, and the Bank of Billings, established 1889, the oldest bank in Christian County. Welcome to High School Game Day here, week 7, and we bring in our special guest and a first-time participant here at High School Game Day, J.C. Reeves, who's the sports editor at the Southeast Missourian. And J.C., thanks so much for your time today.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I'm a huge fan, by the way. You help me out every single Friday night. It helps keep me up to date. I vote on the media panel for state rankings. And I'm not going to lie, I use your Twitter as a cheat sheet every now and then. So I appreciate what you do.
Very good. Well, I finally meet someone who's voting on that. I get a lot of calls. How come so-and-so? How come you voted? I said, I don't have anything to do with that. So now we know who to blame.
Well, don't give them my number. That's all I ask. They can email me all they want, but once they start calling, I might have a fit.
Now, hey, just a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background. Where'd you grow up, and how long have you been with the Southeast Missourian, and what led you on this path?
Sure. So I'm from Chaffee, Missouri. It's a very small town down here, just north of the Boot Heel. It's near Cape Girardeau. I went to SEMO. I'm a graduate. I'm a local guy. Grew up reading SEMOBall.com in the Southeast Missourian. I played sports all through school. So, every time I had a chance to see my name or a picture of myself in the paper, it was always super cool. And not just me, but like all my friends and stuff, because they were way better than me. So they got their picture and names a lot more than I did. But yeah, I graduated from SEMO in 2014 with a journalism degree and lived in Kansas for a few years, worked there for the Capital Journal in Topeka. Ended up moving back, went on a different path, and eventually just missed the grind of journalism and got back into it. So I've been with the Missourian now for, almost 2 years. No. Yes. I think. Almost 2 years. Yeah. Okay. So I started in November 2020 as a crime reporter. And I did crime for about 6 months, and it was terrible. I hated it. I had the opportunity to switch over to sports because our sports guy left. And within a few months, some dominoes fell in place, and I became the sports editor. And this is my second official year as sports editor. So I'm hanging in there.
Here in my area, I live in Bolivar, just north of Springfield. The kind of the main paper around here is Springfield News Leader, and they just have a staff of 1 who covers high school sports. That's a metropolitan area of 250,000 people.
Yeah.
How do you get by? You have help?
I have a reporter, and I have a couple college. So my reporter, his name's Clay Harrell. Fantastic guy. He's fresh out of college, though, so he's still a little green. Got to teach him a little bit here and there. But I love it. It's nice to have someone who is willing to learn, is hungry, and is excited about the opportunity. And then I got a couple guys named Justin Trevelyan and Cole Lee. They are my sports clerks, and basically the way we do it is myself and Clay will try and go out and actually cover things in person. And for the things that we can't get into in person, we have the coaches send us stuff. So the Southeast Missourian, we are under an umbrella of Rust Communications. There are 5 newspapers, and I'll try to make this really short. There are 5 newspapers underneath the umbrella that post to a website called SEMOBall.com. And that is just kind of a conglomerate. So altogether, SEMOBall.com, I believe, covers 56 high schools and 2 colleges. The Southeast Missourian is responsible for 16 of those high schools and Southeast Missouri State University. Um, so anyone that we don't cover live, they typically will send their email or email their scores or whatever, kind of like they do with you, text it, email it, whatever. And we try to put little roundups and stuff on the website so that we're keeping track of all of that. Of course, like every job, there's its stressors, there's issues. There are sometimes that, you get an email that goes to your junk mail, or, you got a coach that doesn't want to send stuff in or forgets, and that's okay. We just kind of do the best that we can with what we got. And I think so far this year, we're doing a little bit better than we were last year. And I hope by this time next year, we'll be doing a little bit better than we are this year. So,
Outstanding. Tell us about some of the teams down there in your area. You're covering a game tonight at Scott City, which is where you live.
yes.
Tell us a little bit about some of the surrounding teams and the teams that you cover. Who's really playing well right now?
Certainly. So Scott City is on fire. I believe they were ranked 7th in the last media poll. Not 100% sure on that. I should know, but I keep up with a lot of stuff throughout the week. Scott City is really great. They have a junior quarterback named Mark Panagas who he does everything. He's just an all-around great athlete. He's a good kid. He can throw the ball. He can run the ball. He can catch the ball. He plays defense. I mean, just an all-around stud. We do an annual magazine previewing the high school football season called Gridiron, and he was on the cover this year. And I remember the publisher asking me, what was the thought process of putting him on the cover? I was like, well, he's probably one of the best all-around football players and athletes in the area, so it's a no-brainer. And I'm just very thankful that he's making me look really smart because he's having a great season. So they're really good. They are 5-1 right now. Their one loss comes to St. Vincent up in Perryville, and St. Vincent's been playing really well too. They actually play St. Pius out of Festus tonight, and more likely than not, it's going to be for the I-55 Conference Championship. And I know that Coach Tim Schumer for St. Vincent, one of the things he told me early in the season is that one of their main goals is to win conference. So this is their chance, and I'm really excited to see how they do.
We hear a lot, in this area, with Jackson and even on up into Seckman, which I know that's probably in the St. Louis area. Interviewed Coach Baer, earlier this week. But with regards to Jackson, Sykeston, Poplar Bluff, and the larger schools, who's playing well?
So Jackson, they started out. They lost their first regular season game since 2016 this year. They're 4-2 right now, and they played two really great teams. They lost in double overtime in week 1 to Edwardsville, Illinois, who's having a fantastic season. And then they lost in week 2. It was a blowout, but it was to Francis Howell. And as I'm sure you know, Francis Howell has a very, very strong team. Definite contenders for a Class 5 state title. So, otherwise, their local schedule, they've absolutely dominated. They look just as strong as ever as far as against the local competition, but against some of those top level teams, they've seemed to take a little bit of a step back. Last year they were really, really good and ended up falling to Webb City in the semifinals, I believe. And then Webb City went on to beat Holt for the state title. Jackson, not quite where they were last year at this point, but they're making improvements each week. And I mean, they're still definitely the best team in this area.
As you look at the smaller schools, I know I'm going from top to bottom here, but Kennett, we hear a lot about Kennett in this area. Who are some of the smaller schools? You mentioned Scott City, who's having a tremendous season up to this point. You've got Kennett, that's kind of in your area a little bit, I would think. And, Thayer's probably a little bit outside of your area, but they're having kind of maybe a down year for them with regards to the scores that I've seen. But who are some of the smaller schools in your area that are playing well?
Yeah, so Kennett actually just picked up its first loss last week. They're now 5-1 on the year. New Madrid County Central is going to be a team that you're going to want to watch out for. I know that they had a really good basketball team last year. A lot of those guys on that basketball team also play football, and it starts with a big guy, Jadis Jones, who plays wide receiver. I mean, he's just one of those guys. I believe he's 6'4", 6'5", can jump through the roof. I mean, he's the guy you want if you got the ball in the red zone and you need to throw a fade to the end zone and have a guy jump over somebody and catch the ball. I mean, you can't ask for anybody better to do it. New Madrid, they beat Kennett pretty handily last week. It was 60-28. and it was really the first tough competition, in my opinion, that Kennett faced. So New Madrid's a team that you're definitely going to want to watch out for. I believe they're Class 2. In Class 1, you've got Portageville, who's having a really solid year. They have a quarterback named Mason Adams who's throwing the ball really well. He also plays defense. I believe he has 5 interceptions on the season. I mean, just fantastic team all the way around. And man, that Class 1, District 1 is absolutely stacked because you've got Charleston, who's having a solid year. You've got Portageville, who's having a great year. You've got Scott City, who's having a great year, and you got St. Vincent, who's having an awesome year. So, if you're interested at all in small school football, you want to keep an eye on Class 1, District 1, because when it comes down to it, that's going to be a very competitive district.
You mentioned the Class 2 teams from down there. Class 2 in this area is loaded, because you have the likes of Lamar who got beat by Seneca, and Seneca drops to Class 2. Now, Lamar's got a big game tonight with Nevada, who's state ranked in Class 4 there, and that's a big game. They're going to pick up bonus points. They're going to be the 1 seed in that district. And what's crazy is Lamar and Seneca are not that far apart, and they're in 2 different districts. And so they're gonna probably meet again, in a quarterfinal game, and then that winner they'll have to play Blair Oaks, who is loaded in Class 2. So you're probably, as I look at it, maybe your 3 best teams in Class 2 are only one of them is going to get up, going to get to that Final Four and even get into Columbia. But in Class 3, here. You look around at some of your Class 3 schools, and just not a lot of power really in Class 3, in this area, unless I'm completely overlooking someone. And then you get into the, Class 5, you got Red City and Carthage.
Right.
Class 6, you got Nixa and Kickapoo. And Kickapoo's playing better right now. They beat West Plains. Now Kickapoo and Nixa are in the same district, but they're going to go to that Lee Summit West, Ray Peck, that district, going that direction, and that's going to be tough for them because that Liberty North district, I think, goes across the state and plays against the St. Louis teams. But it's a fun time of the year right now to really start looking at the district seeds to see who's going to get to host a game. And in our area, and also in Class 5, you can't overlook Hamilton 11, and then they're in the same district. And both of them are undefeated. They're looking, at a head-on collision here next week. Not tonight, but next week, I believe. And you got Central, who's in that district, who hasn't had a winning season in years. Now they've got some winning, to put some wins together, and they could sneak into that 4 seed in that district and get to host a game, which would be an outstanding accomplishment for Springfield Central, who has been down for so long. And but it's a lot of fun. Are there particular games tonight that you're looking at, maybe even statewide? How often do you kind of check this? I mean, obviously you do with being a member of the rankings team.
Yeah. No, I keep up with I try to mostly to stay on top of my local games, and then I'll look around and just kind of see what's going on around the state. For our local games tonight, Farmington and Poplar Bluff should be a decent game. Bluff has an all right defense, but man, their offense just has not been able to put points on the board. And I don't know. It's going to be a tough one between them and the Knights. I know the SEMO North. I mean, it's already out of hands. Jackson already won the SEMO North last week, beating Sykeston. So this 5th time in a row that Jackson has won the SEMO North Conference, which is a pretty big deal around here because for the longest time it was considered one of the toughest conferences, to win. So yeah, I think I would keep an eye on Farmington, Poplar Bluff. I think East Prairie and Donovan could be interesting. The reason I say that is because both teams are not very good, and I don't mean that to be rude or anything like that. It's just East Prairie just picked up its first win, and Donovan hasn't won a game. So this is an opportunity to see if a team can pick up a second win or if a team could pick up its first win. And there's always interesting threads that go into those because, I played for a losing team whenever I was in school. I played for Chaffee, and We were 0-34 at one point. Whenever I was at the end of my freshman year, we were 0-34, and we won we won our first game the next year and ended up continually improving. So it's nice to kind of see some of these teams that are down have an opportunity to pick up a win or two here and there. Another one that I would keep an eye on is Cape Central Sykeston. That's another SEMO North Conference battle. Cape Central only won 2 games last year. They're now at 3 wins this year. They have a chance to double their win total tonight. And on paper, it looks like they should get the job done, but you never know. Once you step on the field, anything can happen.
Yeah, here we've got, as I mentioned, Lamar Nevada. That ought to be a tremendous game. You've got Webb City and Carthage, who are 2 of the top, I think, 3 or 4 teams in Class 5 in the state. And last year they split. Carthage won the regular season game. Webb City won the district game and went on to win the state. Webb City's already got 2 losses this season, which were 2 games that they lost last year, including this game a year ago, the regular season game in Carthage. So they go into the state playoffs with 3 losses. And win the state, you can never count. Any team coached by John Rock, you just can't count them out. And what's amazing there is on his staff, he's got the former Missouri Western head football coach is on his staff. Scott Bailey, who won 7 consecutive state titles at Lamar, is on his staff, coming from Jeff City. So they just keep getting better. Nixa, you look at Nixa's game tonight. They've got Willard. Willard's 0-6. They've struggled. That one could get out of hand. Ozark is taking on the Osho. Ozark's just 1-5 on the season, but they've been within a touchdown in a lot of the games they play. They just haven't been able to put a second half together, and that may be a number situation there. And up kind of closer to your age, you've got Seckman, who's 5-1. And they're a Class 6 school. They're in a brutal district with CBC and DeSmet. But Seckman's taking on Pattonville. And then you talk about DeSmet. Well, they're 3-3 on the season. Well, they got to play St. Mary's, who is loaded. They're 5-1, I believe, on the season is St. Mary's. But so there's a lot of great games going on around the state. Marionville in Class 1 up here is very good.
Yes.
They've made some runs here of late. In the Class 3, as I mentioned, I'm struggling to think of Class 3 teams because you think of Seneca and you think of Mount Vernon. Well, they're Class 2 now. Both those teams have dropped, and you got Aurora who's 1-5, they're in that Class 3. But I just don't see. Cassville's 3-3 on the season. You just don't have those normal teams that you would think would jump out at you in Class 3 in my area because they're either struggling or they've dropped to Class 2.
Right. Well, you mentioned they're a little bit out of my area, but I'd like to touch on this. You mentioned Seckman. They were Class 5 last year. They bumped up to 6 this year. They have a quarterback. His name is Cole Rubel. Absolutely fantastic runner. But another thing that really stands out to me, and it's one thing that I really love about covering high school sports, is he's not only a good football player, but he's a great wrestler. He was a state champion wrestler last year. I don't know what weight class, but so Seckman's quarterback is a state champion wrestler, but he comes out here on Friday nights and just absolutely lights up the scoreboard. He can run like nobody's business, and they've found a passing game this year too, from what I understand. And I got to see them play a couple times last year. I saw them play against Cape Central, and I saw them play against Jackson in the district championship. And they really have come a long way from last year. So I'm excited to see how they do. But you're not kidding when you say that district is just absolutely tough. I mean, any district with CBC in it's going to be tough. So,
well, you talked about Cole Rubel. He was this week's Chevrolet Athlete of the Week, and got to visit with him. His head coach is actually a doctor. Dr. Nick Bear is the head coach, and we've had him on earlier this season. And then Cole was voted as an Athlete of the Week and had him on. Great kid, great interview. Over almost 1,700 total yards already through 6 games, and a lot of that is just running the football.
Yep.
I don't know that he's had even 500 or 300 yards passing on the season, but he's putting up some big numbers. He scored 24 touchdowns on the season. He's just so hard to bring down. And, but I look forward to see how they do, in their district there with CBC and the likes of maybe Marquette, Smet, maybe Gianni. I'm not exactly sure who's in that district. And this is kind of the time where you really start paying attention. District seeds as folks are trying to get a home game and maybe get away from someone who may be right behind them but beat them, or we need to put somebody between us so they can't jump us. When it comes down to it. But again, we are visiting with J.C. Reeves, he's sports editor for Southeast Missouri, and he's getting ready to do a football game. There, it's between Scott City and Chaffee, and JC, we certainly appreciate your time. I've enjoyed following you, and you mentioned, is it Clay Harrell? I believe he started sending us information as well. I think he's tweeting at us on Friday nights, and we try and get everything. If they send it to us, we don't ever copy and paste. It's always, hey, this person's at this game, they need credit. Um, Sometimes that puts us in Twitter jail because you're eliminate you're only supposed to do so many tweets per hour. So a lot of times I either have to not do it, not retweet it, or I've got to type out a bunch of tweets on one deal. So if I ever do that, I'm not stealing stuff from him. I can't. I'm going to go to jail.
No, we tag you because we want you to have it. We know firsthand how difficult it is sometimes to get scores. Somehow, it would be so cool if they had like a collective like ESPN website where we can go and get the scores. But that's what we do. Like that's our thing. So it's kind of it does get difficult at times to find scores, especially if people aren't tweeting or aren't posting to Facebook, things like that. So I mean, we'll take them any way we can get them, and we want to help as well. So and I'm terrible at using Twitter and most social media. I'll be the first person to admit it. I'm not bad with technology and stuff. I do computers and whatnot. I can handle all that. But when it comes to social media, I'm just not the best at it. And I'll make sure that I start tagging you as well because I typically tweet out every scoring play. So I'll make sure that you guys are updated at least on the games that I cover. And like always, I appreciate you, or like what I said earlier, I appreciate what you do. I think that it's a very thankless job often, and but somebody's got to do it, and it helps out a lot of guys, some of the smaller guys like me who aren't always able to find those scores and things.
Hey, I'm just doing it from my kitchen table. I'm a small guy too. I get a lot more credit than I deserve. Um, I get a little bit more blame sometimes than I deserve as well, but I do get a lot more credit than I deserve. But Darren Archer and myself, we're up all my week. I mean, we're talking to each other back and forth. I mean, he's at home sitting in front of his screen. I'm in front of mine, and that's the one thing I do miss is not being able to be at games. 'Cause there's no way I could do this with all the screens and stuff that I have here if I was at a game. Um, but when the playoffs get here and they start playing on different nights, playing on Saturday, something like that, then we will definitely get out and get out to some college games. But real quick before I let you go, kind of give us an update if you have one on SEMO football at Southeast Missouri State. I know we're at Missouri State University here in Springfield, but Southeast Missouri State. My dad is a member of the Hall of Fame there at SEMO, and so he's always looking for any information he can get.
Definitely. SEMO's looking pretty solid right now. They're 4-1 on the season. They're one of the top teams in the OVC at the moment. I believe second in the OVC behind Tennessee Martin. They got a quarterback, young guy named Paxton DeLaurent, who's having a solid year. They got Geno Hess. What's that?
He's a Camdenton kid.
Yeah, I believe so. I don't know a whole lot about him. I'll be honest with you. We got a guy who named Tom Davis. I don't know if you've met him, but he really helps me out with SEMO, and he does a lot of the SEMO stuff. So I'm not as in tune with SEMO as I probably should be. But that's a big reason, because part of it is because I'm constantly focusing so hard on high school, because that's kind of what pays the bills around here. People want to read about their kids and their grandkids and whatnot. But I do know that SEMO's having a good year. They got a guy named Geno Hess as well, who's a stud running back. Just absolutely lighting up the league. I believe he just broke the record for SEMO most career touchdowns, I believe, for SEMO. So just an absolute good player. Defensively, Bryce Norman, a Jackson kid. He's a sophomore. He's having a great year. He was all OVC last year as a freshman. They're looking pretty good. And to be quite honest with you, I don't see I'm looking at their schedule right now. There's not, I mean, there maybe Murray State, but I'm not 100% sure. But otherwise, SEMO looks like they could run the table and may not get beat until the playoffs. So we'll see what happens. But it's definitely really exciting. I just wish they would get that dang stadium fixed. I'm tired of having to write about updates.
You bet. While we're on that subject, Cole Rubel, the player we talked about earlier, just committed to Southeast Missouri State.
Really? What position? Is he going to play quarterback?
Well, he didn't say. We had him on, and he talked about a little bit about the commitment, but didn't really say much about it. It was kind of he's very humble, very modest, and but he posted it on his Twitter account, and Instagram, that he had committed, had the uniform on and everything. So look forward to seeing what he can do down there. But JC, I know you've got work to do, and I certainly appreciate you being generous with your time, and we will catch up with you soon.
Hey, I really appreciate it too. Thanks for having me on, and feel free to holler anytime. I'll be happy to do this again.
You bet. JC Reeves, ladies and gentlemen, sports editor for the Southeast Missourian. You're watching and listening to the Missouri Sports Network at MissouriSportsNetwork.com, where everyone has a home field advantage. And as always, the Missouri State Highway Patrol reminds us, take that 3 seconds and buckle up. It's 3 seconds that could save your life. Be safe, be smart,